Well, good morning. How are you doing with these unity principles? We went through God is and I am. It's a lot to think about, right? And to chew over and to rethink again and again and to poke and find those places that might not feel true for you today. So again, today I'm going to invite you to take what fits for you, what makes sense for you, and just leave the rest behind. Maybe for another day or another person. I know when I first learned these unity principles, I had to chew on them for a while. I had to think about them. I had to let them brush up against the things that I had been taught in the past that didn't always quite feel right. And then let all of this integrate. So today we're going to go into the third and fourth principle, and they stir a lot of curiosity and conversation. So if you're joining us for the first time, you can find all of our unity principles on our website. They're also posted in the front hall. So the third principle is, here we go, let's say it. We are co-creators with God, actively creating our world through thoughts held in mind. Wow. Everything that exists, everything began as a thought. Nothing could come into existence without the thought. You and I live in this field of infinite substance. With the activity of our thinkings, we take from that substance and we form it. And we use it to co-create our lives. If I am not fond of what I'm experiencing on any given day, I have the ability to change it. So do you, because we are that powerful. Our thoughts are that powerful. We hear the power of our thinking in Romans 12:2. Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Be transformed. Don't stay the same. We can be transformed, changed forever when we change our world, when we change our thoughts. These thoughts that we hold with energy and consistency tend to come into manifestation. And it attracting more thoughts. And Proverbs 23:7 says, as we think in our heart, so we are. As we think in our heart, so we are. So you question, did I really create that car crash? That fender bender? Did this child really create their illness? Do people living without homes in poverty really create that for themselves? So I want to add some perspective to this principle. I can't talk about this power of our thinking and how we create our experiences without saying, and I want to be 100% certain that you hear this and that you hear it clearly. We do not create in isolation. I do not create by myself, neither do you. In fact, in this very moment, we are co-creating the experience of this moment, of this time together. The Henrys participated in that co-creation with the vibration of their music that changes and shifts the vibration and feeling of the room, right? We can feel when they play. Yes. We're contributing to this moment, to this space. And those of you who are joining us from home, you're creating that experience in your home and sharing that with us. God, Spirit, by whatever name you use for that which is the cause of all life, isn't interfering with our thinking. We have been given, as our birthright, free will. So whatever thought drifts into my mind, I can choose to grasp it and hang on to it for dear life, or I can let it go. I have free will. We can be still and know and listen to that inner still voice, that divine that moves in us, that intimate knowing of God as good as us. As we heard in those first two principles, we live in this space of the working out of spiritual laws. Spiritual laws are always at work. Whether we recognize them, whether we consciously use them, they are always at work, just like gravity, just like centrifugal force. It's always working. If I jump up, I'm always going to come down. That's gravity. I don't think about it. If I do jump up, I do think about how I'm going to land and what I'm going to land on, but I don't think about the gravity, and these spiritual laws are exactly the same. And there are two laws that are in work in our co-creating. The first is the law of mind action. I know you've heard about it. Thoughts that I hold in my mind tend to produce more of the same kind. You experience this when you're going through your day. If you have happy, joyous thoughts, you tend to notice happy, joyous experiences. You tend to be happy and joyous. You notice that just the same way as if you're cranky and grumpy, then that's what you notice. You know notice the crankiness and grumpiness in the world. You get to choose every moment. In fact, one of our Wednesday night group was talking about that very thing. She was feeling kindness. And of course, as she went about her day, she noticed people being kind to her, because that spiritual law, thoughts that we hold in our mind, tend to produce more of the same kind. So be diligent about what you allow to rest in your mind. You have the power. The other spiritual law is the law of attraction. And that is, with our thinking, we draw to us, like a magnet, the people, the experiences that we need to make our lives manifest, to co-create with the divine, to co-create with each other. We draw people, experiences to us, and we are drawn to those experiences and drawn to those people. Did you ever decide that you wanted to buy a particular kind of car and then notice that car everywhere you go? They didn't suddenly appear in mass numbers. They were always there, but that's where your attention was. That's where your thinking was, and so that's what you tended to notice. If I'm not enjoying the outpicturing of my life, I can turn it with the power of my thinking, remembering that we are not creating alone. We are co-creating with the divine, with Source, with God, whatever you call this that can't be named, that infinite substance of the universe. And we are co-creating with each other, all of the each others. So all of the billions of people on the planet, we are co-creating with all of creation. The trees, the grasses, the animals, we're co-creating with all of that. So we are eager to claim responsibility. I hear people talking about, oh, I manifested that. And I include myself because I am proud of what I've manifested. I manifested the front row parking space. That's the Unity litmus test. That's the first thing we go to, right? That parking space. And then we get to bigger things. Oh, look, I manifested this house, this job, this partner. But what happens when we are living a life experience that maybe is a little itchy or scratchy and not as comfortable as that first row parking space? Are we just as eager to claim responsibility for that? Well, we should be kind and gentle and generous with ourselves because we are co-creating with all the people on the planet. So we're bound to bump into each other. And that consciousness of the collective, that vibe, that energy of all humanity is something real and impactful. So we're watchful. I can promise you that I didn't think myself into the bottom of a box on a hot summer day in Dallas. I can promise you I didn't think, I think I need to be in that box. Want to hear that story? It was this summer when there were like 60 days in a row of triple-digit numbers, and I had, in all of my grace, as I was walking into my office, my foot went under the welcome mat, and I went over the welcome mat and broke a couple bones in my foot. So here I was in sales and marketing, and you know what that means. I was out on the road all day with a heavy, hot, knee-high boot. It was a Friday afternoon. I was tired. I was hot. I was ready to be done with the day. And I'm visiting a family that wanted to come into my skilled nursing home. And I went to the nurse's station to get all the documentation I needed, and they took me to the copy machine. And as I was waiting for everything to warm up, I noticed that there were a pile of boxes, the nursing home supplies. And I decided, I just needed to rest for just a minute. And as I sat on the box, down to the bottom of the box I went. The box was this tall. So my knees, the back of the box, the top of the box hit me right behind the knees, and there was my feet dangling. Yes, please laugh, because it was funny. And I thought, I've got folded into the box, so everything I was holding and my legs dangling out of the box. I thought, I'll just scooch my way out. The boot was not cooperating, and I was stuck in the darn box. And it was change of shift, and people were walking by, and nobody noticed that I was folded up in the box. Nobody noticed. They were so eager to be done with their day and on. I called out, hoping that the office next door would hear, and nobody heard me. I was kind of giggling, so they couldn't hear me. And all of a sudden, the sweet social worker who had taken me to the office, she sees something peculiar in the copy room, and she can tell on her face that she can't quite figure out, is this person in the box? And she got to the copy room, helped me out of the box, and I just couldn't stop laughing. Now, I can promise you I didn't think that it would be great to be in this box folded up like a piece of paper on a hot Friday afternoon. But there I was. Did I think myself into that? No, I didn't. And I don't think that there was a God saying, Karen, maybe she needs to be in a box today. If that God was thinking anything, that God was thinking, she's had a week. This girl needs a laugh. And so I got a laugh. There wasn't a God testing me to see if I had faith, because I don't believe I have a God that tests me. I co-create my life with all other humans, and guess what? Stuff happens. things happen. And it's what we do with it that makes the difference. And I have a lifetime of those kinds of stories. But it's what we do with it. It's we co-create with the divine and the billions of people walking the planet. And that's a lot of energy moving around. I'm not sure whose energy I bumped into that day, but it sure was interesting. And it made for a good story to share with you. We are intrinsically connected, interconnected, and dependent upon each other. Plants, the trees, the ground. We feel the permeability when we lean against a tree. We feel that permeability when we feel the suffering and pain of another person. We are beings of energy, and that energy that is in me and in you is of the same source. We're all of the same source. We're contributing to the experiences of one another. And others are contributing to our experiences as well. And this is a big and, beneath the thinking, beneath the feeling, is the believing. I co-create from what I believe. And there's a couple of things that I want to say about that. In quantum physics tell us that our thoughts vibrate at a certain frequency. And we yield an experience that matches that frequency. I can't have penthouse desires if my believing and thinking is in the basement. So where is my thinking? I can't change my environment unless I change my thinking. Our daily activities don't change until we change our thinking. Be transformed by the renewal of your mind. It's not be transformed by your same mind, by the renewal of your mind. And we are in this experience, we're spiritual beings gifted this time. So trust that you're where you need to be. Trust that you can shift and change the energy of where you are. And it might be hard to hear this, but we, everyone in here, everyone out there, co-create with that consciousness that we hold. We co-create with the vibe of our thinking. We've created an environment on our planet that allows for dis-ease, disorder, chaos, war, all that we're experiencing. Now, we don't go home and blame ourselves or punish ourselves, but what we do is we seize the power of our ability to change what we contribute. As a collective, we rise, we fall, we shift as a collective energy. So those low vibrational thoughts, and Dr. David Hawkins talks about this in the map of consciousness that I refer to so often. Those low vibrational thoughts of fear, of anger, of resentment. You have any of those feelings in the past? No? We are either creating from those feelings and thoughts, or we urge and nudge and grow ourselves to that point of courage. And it's called living above the line. That line of courage is the frequency in which we shift from the fear, the anger, the resentment, the retribution to those higher vibrational frequency of acceptance, understanding, not acceptance of what's happening, but acceptance of each other, acceptance that we can be different and still collected, that we can be ourselves and still one humanity. And when we live above that line of courage, we move into faith. We move into hope. We move into joy, love, all of those things that we say that we want in our life. So we change our thinking. We must change our thinking to change our experience. And we look at our beliefs beneath all of it. And I don't put musts and shoulds out there without serious thought. I don't put them out recklessly. But if we're going to change how we are in our lives, our personal lives, our individual lives, our families, our community, and our world, we get to choose what we contribute. So I think and I pray. And our Unity co-founder, Charles Fillmore, teaches us that prayer is communion between God and us. And as the universe would have it, this morning in my Richard Rohr devotion, he said, he quotes that God is always calling everyone and everything into union with God's self. Whatever name you use for that energy, God is always calling us and everything into union with God's self. Beginning in Genesis, when Noah called the animals 2 by 2, God is calling all of us into union. And he cites all of these scriptures, Ephesians 1:9, Colossians 1:15, Acts 3:21, 1 Timothy, John 3:17. All of this scripture is evidence that God is always calling us into union. And this communion takes place in the innermost part of our being. Not out here. This is the world. It takes place in here. The communion and union. Charles Fillmore also says that prayer is the most highly accelerated mind action. So when you've been in a time of prayer and contemplation or meditation, how do you feel when you're done? You feel a little elevated? You feel a little different than when you started? That's that vibration of that union, that communion with God. Prayer steps up our mental action until we are synchronized with divine mind. Not divine mind synchronized with us. That's what's got us into our troubles. But we are synchronized with divine mind, and we feel the vibration of that. We feel the impact of that. When we are in that space of union through our prayer and meditation and contemplation, we are experiencing that field of creative ideas. That place where we can co-create with that infinite substance from the creative forces of us. And Charles Fillmore also says prayer is an affirmation of truth that eternally exists, but yet hasn't yet come to our consciousness. It already exists in the realm of spirit, but hasn't yet come into our human consciousness. Unity has captured this affirmation of truth in its 5-step prayer process. It's a affirmative prayer, an empowering prayer that we teach our chaplains. And it begins with the recognition that the universal power is. It is. In prayer, we shift our attention from the human circumstance, what appears in front of us, and we focused on the spiritual nature, our oneness with the infinite. That never changes. Our oneness with our source is always. So we take the focus from what we're experiencing in this human and move it to the realm of spirit. And in this state of awareness, we know truth beyond the human experience. We have these steps. Let me share them with you. We relax. We breathe. We let go of distractions. We let go from the lists of what we need to do, the musts and the shoulds, and we become willing. We become willing participants in this power of prayer, and we concentrate. We recognize, we acknowledge that God is a God of love, life, wisdom, understanding. So we concentrate on those attributes. And we meditate. We reflect silently on the power that God is, on what is in this spiritual realm. We allow silence to be the space we occupy. And then we realize, we acknowledge in advance that we are capable of being in that realm of spirit and bringing that into human existence. And we conclude with gratitude and appreciation for what is and what is yet to be. Always what is yet to be. This affirmative prayer process is one that Unity has practiced for over 125 years. It's powerful. It's impactful. It's been successful in many people's lives. So as Jesus tells us, when we pray, go into our room and close the door. Not as a punishment as we were a teenager, but go into our room and close the door and move into that space within that we know without doubt we are one with our source, where that divine can be all that the divine is in us and through us and as us. And always, we let all we do be done with love. Namaste.